Welcome to Surviving Woke Land with Ethan Quinn, a channel dedicated to exposing and explaining the ideology driving wokeness. The legacy of Marxism is one of death and destruction. It has never created the utopia it promised. And no, not because it wasn't properly implemented, but because it's an ideology built on hatred. Marx reduced the world to the binary classification of oppressed versus oppressors. Identity became the means by which to judge the moral authority of a person. Anyone defined as an oppressor was immediately granted moral superiority and exemption from personal responsibility. And any action committed by a person claiming to be oppressed was justified as part of their resistance. This perversion of morality is what allowed 100 million murders to be committed by Marxists in the last century. Marxism is the most deadly ideology the world has ever known, and the danger continues in its modern incarnation, known as wokeness. The tragic events unfolding in the Middle East over the past few weeks have further exposed the moral bankruptcy of the modern left and the woke cult. In true Marxist style, the woke are incapable of seeing the world as anything other than a binary struggle of oppressed versus oppressors. This leaves them blinded by hatred and incapable of seeing the complexities of situations or the humanity of those they hate. What followed the terrorist attack by Hamas on civilian targets in Israel was widely hailed by the woke as a justified act of resistance.
I think that we should all give an applaud right now to Hamas for a job well done. When they woke up in the morning and they found the field hands in the house with a knife ready to cut their throats.
But acts like this can only be justified by people who have confused identity with morality.
David, it's hard to even explain exactly just the mass casualties that happened right here. In fact, the Israeli military says they still don't have a clear number, but I'm talking to some of the soldiers and they say what they've witnessed as they've been walking through these different houses, these different communities, babies, their heads cut off. That's what they said. Gunned down, families completely gunned down in their beds.
What woke people are incapable of understanding is that guilt or innocence cannot be assigned by race, gender, religion, or nationality. Not all straight white men are racists. Not all Jews are enemies of the Palestinians. Being black, gay, Palestinian, or trans does not automatically equate to being right, morally superior, or exempt from criticism. Marx viewed the lives of those he called the bourgeoisie as being worthless, and said that the last capitalist we hang will be the one that sold us the rope. He saw no moral dilemma with murdering them.
Let this be a message to every colonizer. You have every reason to be afraid.
Throughout the history of Marxism, this binary view of the world and of moral authority assigned to one group has resulted in nothing but death. The Bolsheviks used this false morality to justify the murder of millions. The Soviets used it to murder the Kulak people in what they called the Kulakization. The Chinese communists used it to justify the murder of at least 30 million Chinese people. Pol Pot used it to justify killing a quarter of the population of Cambodia, and the list goes on and on. Once you have decided that identity determines moral standing, then actions no longer play any role in what is right or wrong. This same way of thinking is clearly evident in woke ideology. When black people commit crimes, it is justified as being a result of systemic racism.
If somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that that person has clothes. That's reparations. That is reparations. Anything they want to take it, because these businesses have insurance. They're going to get their money back. My people aren't getting anything.
When a white person commits a crime, it's viewed as an indictment on all white people. And when Hamas murdered, raped, and kidnapped Jews, it was justified by the woke left as acts of resistance.
Hamas is not a terrorist group.
Oh, it isn't, ma'am.
First of all, Hamas is not a terrorist group. Hamas is not a terrorist group.
What is it, like a motorcycle club?
It is a resistance that has been fuming for 75 years of colonialism, of occupation, of murder, of rape, of little children, of women. That's what they are. They are resistance.
Do you think Canada is a colonialist country too?
Everything that they do is justified.
What happened yesterday was freedom fighters fighting for freedom. And I want to make one point. Every person that died yesterday was not innocent.
Claiming that Israelis are oppressors, and therefore Hamas is only resisting. You can justify the actions of that attack. But your moral compass is broken if you think beheading toddlers is an act of liberation. There have been countless videos of people tearing down posters of missing and kidnapped Jews. Because the self-righteous woke see these people as nothing other than oppressors. But just consider that this 9-month-old baby was among the hundreds taken as hostages. What kind of a person takes a baby as a hostage? This is Eitan Kopister. He was murdered in his home by Hamas on his 5th birthday.
But in Kfar Aza and Be'eri, we're talking about a total of, I would say, about 280 bodies, 280 casualties. I would say 80% was torture. 80% of it was torture. And you're talking children, adults, children, when you're talking a pile, 2 piles, you found them in Be'eri, 2 piles of 10 children each were tied to the back, burned to death.
The left has endorsed the acts of terror committed on civilians, and even called for similar acts to be committed in the US. It has been surreal to watch the LGBTQ community rally around Hamas and support the acts of the terrorists. The lack of awareness they demonstrated was astounding. They might celebrate the acts of Hamas and claim to stand with them, but the feeling would not be mutual. Try going to Palestine and demanding Hamas use your preferred pronouns, or tell them that men can get pregnant. It won't end well for you. Even homosexuality is illegal in Palestine, and Hamas imposes a 10-year prison sentence on gay men. So perhaps you might want to reconsider your support for people who would send you to jail just for existing. I don't know this man's name. I just saw this on Twitter, but he nailed it.
I think it's a little ironic that the people who seem to be defending Hamas online are also the ones they'd be most likely to kill. Oh no, I'm sure the Islamic terrorists would love you, queer intellectual feminist. We're freedom fighters. They're fighting for their land and I'm fighting for my right to purple hair. What the fuck? It's like a girl in a really toxic relationship. I know you don't like him because he kidnaps and murders people, but trust me, when I'm alone with him, he is such a sweetheart. I'm sorry, if your reaction to people being slaughtered, beheaded, raped, and burned alive isn't complete and utter disgust and horror, if your reaction is, yeah, but I mean, why? See it from their perspective. You need to get your fucking head checked, okay? I'm sure Jeffrey Dahmer had a rough childhood. That doesn't mean I empathize with him. If you want to free Palestine from Hamas.
And despite the fact that the terrorists filmed themselves committing these atrocities, people still refuse to accept that it actually happened.
No, there's inaccurate information in there about
what's the inaccurate information?
Where's the evidence of that?
Are you serious?
Do you have any evidence of that?
You want
here one of the cases, which is an example to the atrocities that we have seen in the tragic event and in Israel. This is a burned body, of course, of an adult, but we know that he was burned while he was alive because we can see soot in the trachea of this person. And they couldn't shoot him because he was inside a shelter. So they burned the house and everybody that was inside was burned while he was alive. And this is only one example of many atrocities and many horrific things that we are seeing here in this tragedy that happened to Israel. I'm 31 years a forensic pathologist. I'm used to see dead people, but I never saw people that are conjoined together while they are burned, trying to hug each other. I'm sorry.
Even worse than woke zombies supporting terror was watching the elected representatives doing so. All these Democrats supported Hamas after the attack. In one generation, America has gone from, we won't negotiate with terrorists, to, let's celebrate acts of terror. How is this possible? And then there are the so-called intellectuals, like Professor Russell Rickford, who claim to be exhilarated by the rape of women and the murder of children.
It was exhilarating! It was exhilarating! It was energizing! And if they weren't exhilarated by this challenge to the monopoly of violence, by this shifting of the balance of power, then they would not be human. I was exhilarated!
This is who is teaching your children, so no wonder the US is falling apart. And then there was BLM. the most dishonest organization in history. The statement, Black Lives Matter, is obviously true. The organization, on the other hand, is a scam. A hate-filled, Marxist group whose concern for black lives directly correlates to how much they can exploit the death of a black person. It should be called Black Lives We Can Exploit to further our Marxist agenda are useful to us.
At some point, I have to stop getting surprised when I see stuff like this, but this is just a little too crazy. It looks like the Black Lives Matter movement just outed themselves as wannabe terrorists with murderous and destructive fantasies on their mind. This was posted on Instagram by the BLM grassroots page and then reposted by BLM Los Angeles, and this was a tweet posted by BLM Chicago. Now let's look at these in detail. This is the beginning of that first post. You should pause to read it, but it's in this next part where things get a little dicey. Let's just read through it together. We too understand what it means to be surveilled, dehumanized, property seized, family separated, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, locked up in droves, and when we resist, they call us terrorists. We too dream of a world where our people may live freely on decolonized land. It's a bit odd to bring up decolonization considering some of the tactics that Hamas is using to decolonize the land of Israel. I wonder if they also dream of using those same tactics for decolonization here in America. I guess we really don't have to speculate much because here is what the official BLM Chicago page tweeted out. That's it, that's all. I stand with Palestine, with the picture of a paraglider. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Hamas terrorists that attacked that music festival in Israel, causing utter mayhem and killing over 260 civilians, came in as paragliders. So this is the Black Lives Matter movement, supporting a brutal and unforgivable terrorist organization while also claiming to have similar dreams and aspirations to them. Now, BLM Chicago has since deleted this tweet, so maybe that was them retracting those barbaric implications. But then they made it their Facebook cover photo, just to let everyone know that they weren't retracting a damn thing. What the hell is going on?
History has warned us that when Marxists start talking about killing people, you should take them seriously. While they like to call others bigots, woke brainwashing has destroyed people's understanding of morality. The woke indoctrinates now confuse being self-righteous with being right, claiming moral superiority with actual morality, and virtue signaling with being virtuous. The left's concept of morality is entirely self-serving, hypocritical, and warped.
The children, the babies, the elderly people. Why do you do this? Why do you do this?
That's a wrap for today's video. If you found this exploration of wokeness enlightening, please share this video. If you have thoughts or experiences to share, kindly leave a comment below. You can also support this channel by downloading my book, Ministry of Truth: How Propaganda Fuels the Culture War. And please join me every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday as we learn how to survive Wokeland together. Until then, this is Ethan Quinn saying, stay free.